Welcome, everybody. This is Southwest Missouri Scores. We do these workshops once a month in coordination with the Springfield County Library. If you're not familiar with Scores is a nationwide nonprofit that offers business mentoring and resources for small businesses. You can check a lot of that out on the SCORE website at score.org. And those are free services. It's nonprofit. So I will go ahead and turn it over to our presenter, Nicholas, today for our brand strategy workshop.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. I'm really excited. Thank you for coming, especially in person. I love it. And thank you everybody that's joining in online. Really excited to be here, talk about one of my most favorite things. I think and love brand strategy. I will sit here all damn day long and talk about it. I have so much insight. It really is a passion of mine. So I'm really excited now to be able to share with you all and give you kind of a glimpse of what it is, what it entails, and how it can actually help your business in a major way. Or like you, if you're getting to a point where you're thinking about starting a business. And that's what I think it also said in my intro too, is that in my opinion, not enough businesses think about brand strategy first before they actually put together anything with their business, a logo, a website, any kind of ads. So I'm going to kind of take you through it all and give you an idea of how brand strategy really works and how it can majorly impact your business. We've seen clients that have gone through this brand strategy process, and at the end of it, not only is there like a renewed passion for what they do, but then in the middle of it, they're thinking of different campaigns. They're thinking about different audiences. They then look at their visual mark and they realize that, wow, my logo doesn't actually communicate what I want it to communicate. So now I'm just warning you all, I'm from Philadelphia. I talk real fast. So if you have questions, write them down. My plan is I have 72 slides to get through in 45 minutes. So it's going to be a ton of information coming your way, okay? But as I go through this, like I said, if you have questions, I'm planning on having 15 minutes in the end, and I'm also told we have the room a little bit longer. But what I really want you to do is if you think of any questions having to do with, not just brand strategy, if you have questions about marketing, about a campaign, about how to come up with campaign ideas, talk specifically about your business or the company that you work for, by all means, I'm more than willing to answer any questions that we have. First, we're going to talk a little bit and give you an introduction of myself. Like I said, I grew up outside Philadelphia. I went to Penn State University. I originally started as a music education major, playing a euphonium, otherwise known as a baritone, or I guess it's technically baritone known as euphonium. If anybody knows what the difference is between a baritone and a euphonium, bonus points to you, because there is one big difference between the two instruments, even though they, for the most part, look and sound the same. Worked in professional sports for 15 years. I thought for sure, since I came out of college, that I was going to be working in public relations for a hockey team as my career ultimate. That never happened. But I did work in the field for 15 years. You just lose track after a while. I think it is. So yeah, now about 15 years. I've done things from marketing. I've done public relations. I've also done the retail side. I've worked for minor league teams and I've worked for major league teams. It's been quite the adventure. And questions at the end, if you have questions about working in sports too, by all means, ask me. Like I'm open. Ask me whatever you want. But I've been in marketing for over 13 years. I started out doing social media specifically because back then it was still kind of new. I actually didn't even want to have a Facebook profile. I remember when I was working for Seattle Supersonics, I started dating a girl and she said the famous line, "It's not official unless it's Facebook official," right? So I told her, I said, well, I don't want a Facebook profile. Don't make me a Facebook profile. So I was dating her for a week, literally. Then I went down for a retail conference for the NBA specifically with a whole bunch of vendors. It came back, she looked at me and said, "It's official." So she had created a Facebook profile for me. And I was actually semi-angry because I said, I don't want it. She did it. Now, funny enough, 13 years later, here we are. I was doing social media for business and now doing creative and branding. So I'm a little too serious about my coffee. I roast my own coffee at home. We have a whole bunch of gadgets. Like I just stinking love coffee. I'm an ice cream aficionado. That's another one that I just can't get enough of. We're starting to make some at home with maybe a future plan of opening up an ice cream shop. We think that would be a lot of fun. And then I collect sports jerseys. I have over 60 in my collection. I've been collecting since 2000, probably actually no, since 1995, now that I think about it. I have a whole bunch of soccer jerseys. Within the last few years, I've gotten a whole lot more baseball jerseys. I just have a ridiculous amount of jerseys. So those are some things about me. Now, like I said, we're going to be going through a lot of information here. I'm going to introduce you to my staff, and then we're going to go into some of the theory of what we do. So this is Leslie. She's my graphic designer. She's also my girlfriend. She graduated from OTC's graphic design program, I think 4 years ago now at this point, but she's already been putting out major work. She was doing some work for me before that. She's always just been naturally talented at that. Once she got the proper training, took her to a whole nother level. She's also my therapist. She's my bringer of donuts. And yeah, she's almost at 4 years experience now. Then of course me, I am the business development, the brand strategist, all the experience. And then my dog Faithers, her name is Faith. She is almost 9 years old now. English Bulldog. I've had her for 2 years. I got her from For the Love of Canines. She's amazing. She's our vice president of gooberiness. She's our court jester. She's our bringer of entertainment. And she has given me 2 years of love and attitude. Anybody who has a bulldog will understand. They're not the cuddly, lovely dogs. Only on their terms, they will, kind of like a cat. But she gives me all kinds of attitude, all kinds of drama. She's ridiculous. All right. So we're going to talk a little bit about what a brand is and what a brand is not. Okay. And I think it's really important that we start with what is not a brand. I don't know if that's grammatically correct. It was the only way I could work to have the word brand up top. That's also, we're kind of goofy, as you saw with our dog. Leslie and I are a bunch of goofballs, so we have goofball things within our presentations too. So just, enjoy that. So we're going to first talk about what a brand is not. The typical explanation when you ask somebody what they think a brand is, they always think it's our logo or it's our website, right? So what I'm here to say is a brand, the concept of brand is not a company name. It is not a logo. It is not a website. It is not your packaging for your products, nor is it actually your services. So of course we have to ask the question, or answer the question is, what is a brand? This is where we start getting kind of in depth. So like I said, if you have questions, write it down at the end because I'm going to fly through this information. So when you talk about the word brand, you have to remember a brand is a customer experience. From the second they learn about who your business is, what you even do, to the very end of them buying your product and becoming loyal and getting to that point where they're telling other people about your brand, the experience from front to back is what a brand is. A brand is a mindset. We're going to do an exercise here in a moment, which I'm going to need your help with, where we're going to talk about a few specific brands. A brand is a perception. When you hear certain names of brands, what do you think about them? A brand is an emotional connection. There are some brands out there who are really quirky. Most of the commercials they put out or any kind of ads are funny. Well, they're trying to make an emotional connection with you because I think it was 95% of buying decisions are not actually irrational and are not actually thought about doing or thought about having happen. 95% of it's actually subconscious. And the way they work your subconscious is through color psychology, obviously copywriting, different psychology, but it's also that they're building up in your mind subconsciously or making that emotional connection with the business so that by the time the buying decision needs to be made, your subconscious has already decided it's going to be them because they've connected with you emotionally. And then a brand is also a relationship. If you're on social media, do you interact with some of your favorite brands on there? I know that Taco Bell, for instance, one of the things that people love to do is to write, "I love you, Taco Bell." Do you know why? Because Taco Bell actually responds and says, "Well, we love you too." Isn't that crazy? Something small like that will make an emotional connection, will hit somebody's mindset. It's part of the customer experience. And it's now strengthening the relationship because they're excited that Taco Bell actually wrote me back. So brands, just like relationships, are built over time. We're in a world where, yes, there are things that can happen in the short term. If a business needs lead generation and they want to start converting leads right away. That can happen. But the problem is when you chase the short-term dollar, you're only going to be doing short-term tactics. What wins in the end are brands. You know, when you look at a relationship, for instance, for those that are in a relationship, are married, whatever, think about that relationship. The second, or let's go back to your first date, right? You sat down with somebody at your first date. Did you look at them within the first 5 minutes and say, hey, I want to marry you. Let's go get married right now. Now, some people may, I don't know. That's great if that worked out for you. But 99.9% of other people, that's not it, right? So you have to look at a relationship. It takes time. You go out on the first date, you have all the sappiness and the fun and the butterflies, and 3, 4, 5 months go, everything's fun. But then all of a sudden you might hit your first fight. Probably a little fight, hopefully a little fight. You get to know each other, and now you're saying, okay, that person is somebody who, seems to overreact. Or, wow, that person gave me a lot of grace there. I really like that. And you decide to continue the relationship. Then let's say 6 more months down the line, you're starting to think really serious, and you're asking yourself, do I want to spend the rest of my life with this person, right? So as you're going through that, the relationship is building, and that bond of trust is building. And then hopefully eventually you end up getting married, and then you have kids and grandkids and all that kind of fun stuff. But its brand is the same thing. You may be able to get a short-term sale, especially if something, let's say, is like a $3 product or a $10 product. But when you're talking about maybe something that's more expensive, people need to trust you. So that's what your brand is you're talking about who you are, getting through that perception, creating that relationship so that they fully trust you and are now ready to partake. A couple quotes that I love. This one by Seth Godin. A brand is a set of expectations, memories, stories, and relationships that, taken together, account for a consumer's decision to choose your product or service over somebody else. Another one that I really like is Walter Landor. Products are made in a factory, but brands are created in the mind, right? Now, do you think that these things just so happen to happen randomly? Or do you think that it's something that's probably very, very well thought through? Something that's planned, something that's tested until we find something that works, that we find that our audience actually, connects to the brand with? No, it's very, very intentional. People know down to the last detail who their company is, how they express themselves. And then again, that's what brand is. Now, here's where we're going to need your help. We're going to do a little bit of participation. And it's okay. It's going to take a little time because we're going to be doing stuff online. So those of you that are on Zoom, bring up your chat window. And I'm going to ask you, since you're here, you get to be the guinea pig to give me the first answers, okay? But I'm going to ask you for a little bit of help. Now, just to remind you, a brand is a customer experience, a mindset, a perception, an emotional connection, and a relationship, okay? Keep that in mind. What is your brand perception when you see their name or see their logo? I'm about to show you 3 different businesses. As soon as you see the business, I want you to think through it for a second, and then tell me the words that come to your mind about this business, about who they are as a business, about maybe what their values are, but mainly what your experience is with these companies, okay? So the first one, everybody loves the big blue block, right? Walmart. So I want you to think for a second. If you're online on Zoom, I want you to type in what your perception is or what comes to your mind when you think of the word Walmart. Let's start with you. What do you think of when you hear Walmart?
Cheap.
Cheap. Okay, what else?
Biking.
Mountain biking, okay. So do you go there and buy a lot of your mountain biking product from them?
Oh, they're building trails
They're building trails. Where are they building trails?
in Arkansas.
Okay, oh yeah, and their headquarters in your Bentonville?
Yeah, they're converting it to the mountain bike capital.
Interesting.
And so for me, that's a connection that
Yeah.
Thanksgiving.
So that's a positive connection too, right? So you have cheap and you have mountain bikes. Do we have anybody online?
We do. Donna says satisfaction guaranteed.
Okay, so you remember a tagline for that. That's great. Awesome.
Yeah. Mohammed says big, affordable.
Okay, very positive as well.
And Rhonda says convenient.
Convenient. Okay. that is the most positive response I've ever gotten.
For Walmart.
Yeah, for Walmart, right? I asked my friends online because I wanted to get an idea. And of course, people are like cheap and bad customer service. And like I honestly hate going into Walmart. I really do. Because especially when COVID was happening, I just assumed that, I would end up like catching something in there because the Walmarts that I've been in haven't been very clean. Like they haven't taken care of it and scrubbed the corner. So because it feels dirty to me, I automatically assume that something's going to be in there, except the one on Independence. One on Independence, really, really clean. Okay, so those are some great answers. So did any of your perceptions match these? This is straight from Walmart's website of what they want people to think about them and also some of their values. So you have the customer is number one always. Okay. Respect. I don't know, I've had many people that ever gone to Walmart and say, I felt so respected and loved by the employees. It's just the reality of it. Integrity. They care about their associates, their service, and also excellence. So everybody that's online, type yes or no in the chat to tell me if you think your answer and your perceptions actually matches these. While you do that, we're going to move on to the next one.
No.
What do you have?
Lots
People
of
say
no's.
lots of no's. Exactly. That's exactly it. The next one we're going to talk about is Starbucks, the big green logo that everybody seems to know. When you think of Starbucks, what is your first thought? What is your perception of Starbucks as a brand? What you got? What's that? Stuck up. So when you walk in, it seems a little coffee snobbish at times, right? Is it the people that are buying, or is it the people behind that are doing the service that make you feel that way?
Maybe customers.
And customers. Okay, I could see that. Awesome. What else we got online?
Love it, but expensive.
Okay, so price point is definitely one. And the funny thing is that Starbucks, one of the things about Starbucks is, especially back in the day, it was known as sort of a status thing. There are a lot of people that hate their coffee, but buy it and literally carry around the cup to make sure that the logo is sticking out to let everybody know that they have a Starbucks drink. Yeah, you had that too?
I think that's why I have that perception.
Yeah, that status, right? What other ones?
We've got bad coffee, too much sugar,
Yep.
knowledgeable employees.
Okay, interesting. So what I'm hearing people say is that there is a bad product. Me being the coffee snob, I agree. But it's because I don't like dark coffee. Starbucks started because Howard Schultz went to Italy and experienced an Italian roast. And basically the difference between an Italian roast coffee and something that's burnt and has become ash is very, very small. He liked strong coffee, so he brought it to America. So that's why people talk about their drinks being maybe over extracted or whatnot, right? So we said sugary, right? So yeah, there's a lot of drinks. Like the one thing that I will drink from there, I love the white mocha, and it's just because I need a sugar shot, and I get it with the blonde espresso instead of their regular, tastes like I'm licking a volcano type of espresso. I actually like that. That's just me. So we had sugar, we had
The last one was knowledgeable employees.
knowledgeable employees. That I would agree with. I really have a soft spot in my heart for anybody that works at Starbucks, because the amount that they get put down, and if you don't get the drink exactly right, they're getting yelled at. I feel bad. Okay, so with all those perceptions, this is what they have on their website. So they're trying to create a culture of warmth and belonging where everyone is welcome. So funny enough, you were talking about how you thought it was kind of stuffy inside, and that's kind of snobbish, right? Starbucks is trying to create the exact opposite. Delivering our best in all we do and holding ourselves accountable for the results. I agree with that. I think they do a good job of that, because the employees, even though they take a lot of crap, if it's a bad drink, they don't even question you. They'll say, well, what's wrong with it? Okay, perfect. We'll make another one, done. So I think they do a great job on that. Acting with courage, challenging the status quo, and finding new ways to grow our company and each other. That I can't speak to, but I do know that internally with their employees, they have things like free tuition to specific colleges. I know that they're trying to do a lot with the environment. So I would say that's probably right. And then being present, connecting with transparency, dignity, and respect. I'll give them that as well. Because again, you go in there, I really think the baristas for the most part do a fantastic job. And they are very graceful people because they put up a lot of crap. So the third one, Amazon. I know that this one can end up being a bit of a hot topic, right? But what are your brand perceptions of Amazon? What you got?
Like evil necessity.
Okay, evil necessity. So in other words, we don't want to support them because we know that the perception is that Bezos is somebody that's very evil and greedy because he's one of the richest people in the world. But we also know that to get something in 1 to 2 days with Amazon Prime and not having to leave our home and most likely getting a very good price for it, you almost feel like you have to. Honestly, I'd rather go onto Amazon than have to go into Walmart, and you can get kind of the same things and a lot of times a better price on Amazon. So I agree with that. What else?
Convenience.
Absolutely convenient. Yeah. What we got online?
We've got annoying and awesome.
Is that the same person?
Yes, that's the same person.
Can you explain that to me a little bit? Because you piqued my curiosity. Annoying and awesome.
Yeah, Donna explained a little more.
Okay.
While Donna's typing, I'll tell you what other people said.
Gotcha.
It said 2-day delivery.
Yep. So again, that we're talking about convenience there, that you don't have to leave your home and it's delivered to your doorstep.
We've got quick.
Mhm.
Another thing.
Yep.
Octopus retailer.
So basically octopus retailer, meaning they have a whole lot of different arms for products, but they're also trying different things. You have third-party sellers. And in fact, if you really, Amazon goes a lot deeper than a lot of people know. There are a lot of features and a lot of sub parts of Amazon that if you go through their website, did you know they have like a warehouse overstock side of their business? Not a lot of people know that, but go in and look it up. I believe it's called Amazon Deal or Amazon Warehouse or Amazon Overstock. I don't remember, but they have so many different revenue streams. It's ridiculous, but we only know about the main one. I just want to go to Amazon to buy my crap and have it sent to me, right? So that's how else I know it. Did Donna write back?
She did. She
Okay.
said supporting the quote unquote evil empire and also 2-day delivery.
So it's exactly like you were saying. You know, Amazon is looked upon as being a greedy business and shutting down mom and pop businesses and having bad business practices. But at the same time, they offer 2-day delivery for cheap items, right? Well, this is what Amazon has to say. Customer obsession rather than competitor focused. I would agree with that because they do everything they can to make it as easy for us to order something. And in some states and cities now, it's same-day delivery. Now they have the little drones that are flying around and dropping stuff off at your doorstep. Scares me, but this is what it is. Passion for invention. I would agree with that as well, because again, they're trying to innovate to figure out how to get you your stuff faster. Commitment to operational excellence. I would agree with that, though I know that they're having some problems. This is one of those examples of maybe grew way too fast and didn't have the proper things set in place, because you hear about Amazon and workers dying in a warehouse under stress. You hear about them saying that they're not allowed to leave their station for 8 hours, even to go use the restroom. And there's a lot of unrest and, people thinking about unionizing, but they're trying. Things happen. It's easy to assume that Jeff Bezos is responsible and that he's evil and all that. But, I think they just grew way too big for themselves. But I know that they're trying. And then they also have long-term thinking. I would agree with that too. I think they're always planning and looking for the next innovation to make it easier. So when you think about it, these perceptions that these companies want you to have of them isn't necessarily happening very well. Walmart was originally built based on price, right? I think that was the original that Donna said, everyday low prices, right? That was their original tagline. The problem is the race to the bottom is never ending. So at some point they realized we can't be about price anymore. And that's why Walmart has become who they've become in the stores and not being well kept and employee issues, is because the race to the bottom is always the worst. So they've had to try to change their brand perception, that they're for you as consumers, that they're for making customer service easy and being about the associates, because they were racing so far low that they were having problems actually loving their workers and supporting their workers and being able to keep these stores to look better than it actually does, right? So again, this is why brand is so important. And there's going to be another quote here coming soon, which will explain that a little further. The brands want you to feel a certain way about them. So they have a plan as to how they're going to convey who they are, what they stand for, who they want to be for you, and the messaging that's going to help them to achieve their goal. And that, my friends, is a brand strategy. This is exactly what we're here to talk about. We're going to go through some of the different aspects you have to think about in a brand strategy. So we're going to talk about what a brand strategy is right now. This is kind of my definition. There are definitely many different definitions, because really brand strategy can be done in so many different ways. This is my version. A strategy, a brand strategy, is a strategy that helps you consistently and clearly communicate who you are, what you or your company does, and what problems you solve in the marketplace in order to influence people's decisions. So I guess the big question here is, who is it that actually defines that brand? You can have a brand strategy in place. You have to make it work. In the end, you're the one that attempts to shape it with the words, the stories, the photos, the videos, the scripts, and your visual identity. Talk about your logo and your website, copyright, and all that. In the end, though, your customers are the ones that define who your brand is. Again, thinking about Walmart, those words that they want to be known for definitely did not match up with what the main perception is of their brand. So they can talk to their blue in the face that they're about the associates and about you as customers. But when their actions don't show it, your brand strategy and the actual operational strategies don't mix together. But you have to attempt it. And really, in the end, if you don't come up with a brand strategy, you're not trying to form a perception of your company in the marketplace. You're giving everybody a free ticket to do it for you. That's like a company who says that they're all about the environment, and then you do the research in the background and you find out that they're adding pollution as opposed to maybe becoming a green company. Those types of things really matter. So not only do your words have to match up in your brand strategy, but your actions do. I have a client that has an all-natural product, and the environment's very important to them. So as we were creating their packaging and their logo and everything, I said, okay, you guys are going to be starting out here in the next few months. What are you doing for t-shirts? Oh, we found these cheap t-shirts online. Okay, how much are they? $6 a piece plus the screen print. Are they from organic materials? No. Are they natural materials? No. Are they actually good for the environment? No. Then you cannot have those t-shirts. Because if you're going to tell everybody that you're all about organic and making the environment better, in every facet of your business, everywhere you possibly can, you have to be sustainable, because people are going to smell it real quick if you're saying this, but then they're seeing this. And unfortunately, then they're shaping your brand, not you. So you can attempt it, but in the end, your consumer will define it. In other words, if you don't have a plan on how you want your brand to be perceived, your consumer will be defining it for you. Now, we're going to talk about the reasons why you actually need a brand strategy. It's the North Star for everything that you do. Again, from words to phrases, to visuals, to copywriting, to websites, even for people who have a physical store, the people that are your frontline employees talking to a customer. They have to know your brand. I always thought that was BS. I don't know about you guys when you worked jobs in the past. Like I remember when I was 16, I was working for The Wall. If anybody remembers The Wall, it was a music store. We had to sit down and watch those really boring videos about our company culture and our company values. And I used to think that was BS, right? But now that I own my own business, I understand. The problem is a lot of companies don't continue to remind you and put it in front of you and help you actively become a part of it. because the very people in the front who are representing your business could be your salespeople, again, physical store, if you have employees there talking to customers, if they don't understand your company, things can go sideways really, really quickly. That's why you have to have a brand strategy there, because it's like the foundation for your company for the rest of your life. It changes every probably 7 to 10 years as your business grows, or you add on a new service, or you're starting a new division. So it's very adaptable. But if you don't have this from the beginning, you're going to have a real hard time navigating. So what is included in a brand strategy, or what does a brand strategy actually influence? So we talked about it, so your visual identity, anything that people see from you, your colors, your design, your shapes, UI, UX. If anybody knows about audio branding, you think about McDonald's, what's the sound that they always have at the end?
You're gonna make it sing about it.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember, because in my mind, I think I have either Verizon or AT&T. No, that's T-Mobile, I think. But either way, like, oh, I'm loving it,
Mhm.
right? That is shaped by their brand strategy. That isn't just something random that they came up with, right? It's well thought through, because their brand strategy dictated the tone of the music, how short it is, the actual tagline, all influenced by the brand strategy. It influences your packaging design. Like we always talk about, the website design. It influences the stories that you tell. It influences your copywriting, the words you're using on graphics or in ads or on social media or on your podcast. It is all shaped by that. The messaging you're putting into the marketplace, the imagery, the sales scripts, basically any marketing execution you have is done by that brand strategy. So in other words, everything is influenced by a brand strategy. Now, the question is, how do you do this? I'm going to kind of tell you what we believe a brand strategy to be. We're going to talk about the different elements that we talk about with our clients. You're basically getting a behind the scenes look at almost exactly how we do our brand strategy, because I want you to fully realize what it takes to do it. And when I go through each one of these, you're going to start to see how everything can be influenced by it. So again, it helps you define who you are as a company. It speaks to your purpose, your mission, your vision, and your internal and external values. It helps your customers, your employees, or if you're in a nonprofit, your volunteers. It helps them have specific messaging that could be very clearly expressed internally within your company and externally to the public. Now, I think it was maybe about a year and a half ago. You laughed.
I'm speaking of their public statements, please.
Oh, fantastic. So what I'm about to talk about was based on my talk with them about a year ago or so, right? So I went into the Kiwanis. I had a client who was one of their members, and he said, we're having problems expressing who we are. When you're in a nonprofit, if you can't get a collective group of people to have the same message, your message is going to be splintered, right? So he said, the one thing everybody keeps saying is when somebody says, what is Kiwanis Club? They say, well, it's for the kids. Everybody says that. Okay, great. It's for the kids. That doesn't tell me what you do. So I dug a little bit deeper into their website, into the Kiwanis International website, and pulled out some nuggets and said, okay, so it's actually very clear on the website who they are, but their local club wasn't expressing it right. So I did a little thing. I had 3 people, one of it being my client, because I wanted him to give the right answer at the end. But I said, 3 people, cover your ears. Everybody else, don't say a word. First person, take your hands off your ears and tell me what the Kiwanis Club is in one sentence. They said what they did. Okay, cool. Second person, remove your hands. Tell me what Kiwanis Club is. It's for the kids. And then a little explanation. Okay. Third person, my client. Tell me what Kiwanis is. And he had a really good explanation, right? The crazy thing was, between the 3 of them, they all said something different. And that's scary. Because if you can't clearly communicate to people what Kiwanis Club is, why are they going to join? That means they have to go back and do more research, which then takes brain power, it takes brain calories, it could cause confusion. They may not have somebody to talk to at the end, and then they just stop. Or if I'm going to give money to Kiwanis or to any other nonprofit, I want to know who they are, and I want their people who are members or volunteers or workers to tell me, to make it as easy as possible for me to make the donation and be confident that I'm doing that. So yeah, all three of them gave me something different. And that is scary, because then people start having warped perceptions of what it is, or you're missing a major part of what it is. That could be the key deciding factor for somebody buying your product or your service or joining your nonprofit. It helps you define who you want to reach. Now, there are different strategies for reaching your audience. Some people love to start wide, as far as let's reach as many people as possible. And in some cases, that's actually okay, because it depends on the actual marketing strategy that you have, where if you want to start here and then start to siphon it down into the funnel to your main people, or you can define specific audiences. That's like, age ranges. It's age ranges. It's, where are they spending their time? Who are they associating with? What are their hobbies? Who are some of the people that they follow? Like your typical customer avatar. You define that during your brand strategy, because that helps your messaging. You're not going to talk to an 18 to 25-year-old person the same way you're going to talk to a 45 to 65-year-old person, right? The 18 to 25 have a completely different set of pain points than the 45 to 65 do, based on life experience, based on money, based on career. So to me, it's very important. And that's why in this brand strategy, this is part of it. We help you. You have to decide who you want to talk to. So when it comes to a marketing campaign, you give them an actual name. We'll call one Janice. Okay, we know that for this specific campaign, here are the elements. We want to talk to Janice, and everybody knows exactly who Janice is, her pain points, where she's at in life. So it's a lot easier to filter your marketing program through knowing exactly who it is. It also helps you define your brand position. Your brand position is basically, why should people buy from you versus your competitor? So you do your competitor research. And by the way, I'm pleading with you. Do not say your customer service is what separates you. Please don't do that. Number one, you can't quantify it. Number two, it's easy to say we have the best customer service. What does that mean? No, we really have the best customer service. Okay, how? Well, we're responsive. Well, everybody says that. Well, we'll get to them a lot quicker. Everybody says that. Well, we'll guarantee their happiness. Most people say that. So your customer service, I'm telling you, unless you've won an award that literally says you have the best customer service, your brand position is not your customer service. You have to dig deeper for that. We have a client, I had a client who was doing home inspections, and we talked about what was it that a lot of the people that were coming to them for, because they have all kinds of choices, right? They work a lot with real estate agents. So with that, as we were going through his brand strategy, and in fact, we were coming up with a name for his company. But as we thought about it, he said, well, really, it's the method by how we do our things and how quick our reports are, how it's lined up in the report. Those are the things that make us different. So you can actually go in and I said, okay, have you quantified this? And he said, yeah, we hear it from realtors all the time. This home inspection group, I didn't like what they've done. I've been using them for a long time, but they're kind of fading. So we came to you, and now we're forever with you because we love the method that you do, how you give us the reports, the responses when we need to come back to you and question things. So we knew right there that was one of their major brand positions because it was much different than everybody else. Now, it could be there, emotional benefits, there are functional benefits to your stuff, but you really need to dig deep in your competitors to see what is it that you actually have that is different and much better than everybody else that can still somehow be quantified. It helps you define how you want to be perceived by others. This speaks to your personality, the tone, and the voice of your business. Imagine your business was a person standing next to me, and they're currently in front of your prospective clients. Well, how are they being talked to? What kind of personality does your business have standing there, right? What kind of tone of voice? What are the words and phrases that you want to make sure you use? That's defined by the brand strategy. It helps you define and refine your messaging. It helps you to figure out, okay, here is the set of messaging that we want people to know. And if we want to come up with a campaign that does not sit within this messaging framework, the 4 different topics that we're okay with discussing, we don't do it. Because the second you deviate from your messaging is the second you start to put more static into the marketplace. People are going to want to research you and they're not seeing that messaging on there anymore. And now it could be confusing to people within the industry, but also within your customer and client base. So you have to define your messaging. And it helps you attract the right talent for your organization. Brand strategy isn't just about the exterior, it's about your internal culture. And especially as workers who are younger in the workforce, their research is showing that this next generation of people who are now entering into the workforce actually are hoping to join organizations who are doing something bigger than themselves. They want to be involved with a company that is cause related or that actually stands for something, because that helps them become emotionally connected to the internal culture of your company. So if they're trying to decide between 2 and one is money, but it sounds kind of drab and you're not sure that it lines up with their values, you're offering them something maybe for less money, but there's so much more that they could do because they've heard it from your external messaging. They're probably going to choose you. And that is found out in the brand strategy as well. So what are the elements that make up the brand strategy? These are the 4 that we use. Your brand pulse, it's like the heartbeat of your organization. Your brand essence, that's where we're talking about the personality and the tone and the benefits, the competition, all that fun stuff, because again, it's the essence of your company. Your brand messaging, again, the words, the phrases, the topics that you're going to put out in the marketplace. And then at the end, your visual identity. Because again, remember, a visual identity is not a brand. It's part of the brand. So what is your brand pulse? Your brand pulse is the heartbeat of your organization. And this is what drives everything that your company does and also why it does it. So now I'm going to take you through some examples here in a moment. Your purpose. Why does your business exist? Again, I'm going to show you some examples to help you put it into context a little bit. The vision. What kind of future do you want to create? What would the world look like if they partook in the success of your vision? Your mission. What are you actually here to do? What will you do to carry out that mission? And then the values. What are the guiding principles that steer the direction of your business? And again, these are internal and external. So if anybody knows who Casper is a bedding company, right? Pretty massive in the marketplace, known for having really, really great products. I'm going to show you 2 types of each of those categories. I'm going to show you what ours is as a company for Red Letter, but I'm also going to show you Casper's examples of their purpose, mission, values, and vision, okay? So, purpose, why do you exist? Casper says, we believe sleep is the superpower that charges everything people do. Notice that their purpose is not, we're trying to make really high quality pillows and bedding for you to purchase from us. They have an overarching purpose. They know that sleep is everything. You know sleep is everything. You know sleep is everything. When you don't sleep well, it is really hard to function the next day, right? So Casper's purpose is they know that it's a superpower that charges everything that we do. So their purpose is to help fuel that. Now, businesses need to make money. So of course they have products, but they have an actual purpose as to why they're helping within that industry. If their purpose was just to make good products, they would lack ideas. But their purpose is to help people be supercharged so that they can function. So there's probably a lot of research, psychology, biology that goes into everything that they create. Now, for Red Letter, which is my company. Yes, we're here to make money because businesses need money to function and to grow. But that's not why we do everything that we do. I could start up any other business to make money. That's not it. As we were talking before, I love sports psychology. I love high performance psychology. And I know that with our marketing prowess, we can help businesses grow to help the owner, the VPs, the whoever, staff, anybody in there, we can help make their dreams come true. So we're actually coming from a standpoint of we're here to help. It costs money, but we're here to help you. But we also have a larger vision than that as well. So what we have here is, of course, we're helping brands get the word out about their products and services so that, it will impact their customers. But we also want to help orphans and people who are transitioning out of really bad places to live a life of dignity and impact. So some of the money that comes in when we get to that point where we can start making this happen is we want to help the orphans who are about to come out of the system, who don't have a plan in life, to maybe have a direction. And maybe that's through training. Maybe that's us paying for training, maybe bringing you in to talk into that system of people to help them know that there is, just because they're going to turn 18 and they're going to leave the system does not mean that it's hopeless. They're going to end up homeless and in jail. In the same way, prisons and ministries, or prisons and homeless. I think, I don't remember what the percentage was. I think it was actually much higher than you and I talked about. It was something like 93% of people who leave the prison end up going back in within 6 months. And I've even heard stories about people who will literally be let go and punch and assault a guard so they can go back in because they don't have a place to go. That hurts my heart to hear. So if I know that our company can actually help to maybe train people up, maybe match them with mentors of, hey, I've always thought about construction. Okay, well, awesome. For the next year, we're going to have this person come in. They're going to teach you. They're going to mentor you. And then maybe knowing that you're going to be released within 6 months to a year, you can actually come out and stay with this person, or that they'll bring you in as an apprentice to help you learn construction. That's what we want to do. But we need money to do it. And what we do in marketing is the vehicle that we're going to use to get the money to leave a lasting impact on those people. We also want to help CEOs, C-suites, and all workers build the mental and marketing skills needed to drive sales and brand impact. Because I know that brand impact and sales is what builds their dreams and gives them more opportunity to grow, which means they get to bring more employees in, which hopefully they love their employees, and they're actually going to work with their employees to help them build up their dreams as well. And then same thing for our staff. Anybody we bring in to work under us, we're not bringing them in just to do marketing. I want to find out, like, okay, what is your dream? Well, I've always thought about opening an ice cream shop. Okay, you'll work with us. We'll teach you the marketing, or you already know the marketing, and you can move up. But I'll tell you what, 1 week a year, we'll pay for you to go work with this ice cream company. So it's like you're taking a vacation, but you're not losing vacation days on it. We're paying you as if you're in the office, and you can go work with them for a week and learn the ins and outs. And then maybe if we bring on an ice cream client, we'll put you on that account so that you can get the necessary experience, so that after 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, you're ready to open your ice cream shop. You're equipped, you know the marketing, hopefully you know the business by now. And I'll tell you what, if we have the money, here's a check for $10,000 to go start your business, because we believe in you. That's part of why we exist. It's not just about marketing. It's about people impact and world impact. You see how powerful a purpose for a business can be? Now imagine you're telling people the story, like I'm doing with you, telling you what my vision is for this. You can see, I'm already energetic and everything, but I got real feely. My hands were going and I'm moving up and down, and like it energizes me. But imagine what happens. I've bought product from companies who I don't need a product for, but I love their mission and their purpose. And I'm like, I want to help them because they're leaving an impact. That kind of stuff matters, and that can be defined in your brand strategy. Your vision, what kind of future do you want to create? How are we doing on time, by the way? 6:50. Okay, so I kind of figured we're almost up. I'm only like halfway through, so I'll try to speed it up a little bit. So Casper, for your vision, what kind of future do you want to create? We're here to awaken the potential of a well-rested world. That's a crazy vision. That's long-term thinking, because they know if they can build the right impact, tell the right stories, and hit people in the emotion bone, that people are going to want to buy their product because they've gotten so much value out of Casper. For Red Letter, we want to create a future where everyone lives a life of impact, lives a life of importance and self-dignity by becoming better in their life. That's where that sports psychology, high performance psychology comes in, because I want to take our staff, or as a service, go into businesses and teach them psychology and give them very practical ways that they can grow themselves, grow the internal culture, for their employees, so that their employees become high performers, and that then they'll leave and start their own thing. That leaves a lasting impact. We want to help them be better leaders, better employees, better people, better husbands and wives, and honestly, better parents. It can affect so many different ways. So if you go back and you look at some of the things that we're posting on socials, I post a lot of things having to do with mindset training or different quotes and different ways that people can do it. We're not just doing that randomly. It's part of my brand strategy and it's the vision of my business. So it's part of what I share into the marketplace. Your mission. What are you actually here to do? This is the practical one. So Casper says we're setting a new standard in sleep innovation. While that new standard comes from, again, research and product testing and psychology and biology, so that they're innovating within sleep so they can be the leaders of these products for better sleep. The vision for us, we're here to design brands and tell stories that impact those around them. We're here to foster a culture of achievers who are actively going after their dreams. And we're here to teach them mental and career skills that will help our staff, orphans, transitional people build and live the life that they desire. And then, of course, we're talking about values. Again, there's internal and external. Casper's core values comprise innovations, risk reduction, cost reduction, and status. The business approach of Casper leaves the customer stunned to do the experiences that they enjoy. I love that. And all of the employees inside can look at those values, and hopefully it's in front of them so that every decision they make, it has to line up with the value of the company. For us at Red Letter, we look at our clients as business partners. We're going to conduct ourselves as if you've brought us in and gave us 50% of your business, because there's a much bigger difference of coming in as a consultant and coming in with the mentality of being an owner, because an owner is desperate to do everything they possibly can to grow this thing. So psychology wise, we're trying to get into the mindset of we now own half your business. It's not true, but just the mentality. How would we act right now? Our value is also a relationship of mutual respect. Within our industry, it can be really, really tough when you're talking creative and branding. Sometimes the creatives are the ones saying, we know better. And honestly, we've been guilty of that. So we have to go back and look at our brand values and say, no, what we did there does not line up with the brand value. So we made a major shift because we needed to make sure that we were within our brand values. A standard of excellence in everything that we do. Now, of course, that's pretty typical, but we really mean it. Like, we really want to make sure that everything we do is top notch. And then we also want to be original. In creative and branding and logos and websites, a lot of times everybody looks the same, sounds the same. I apologize to any realtors we have on here. Everybody has the logo with the house. It's just a little different. Maybe you have two houses. Maybe this one has two windows, but the other real estate agent has a door. But the problem is they all look the same. When we do this, we think of ourselves a lot like BMW does with their logo. You know the Beamer logo as soon as you see it. You see those two white diamonds, you see the blue diamonds, you know. But if you look at the history of their logo, it's all the same with maybe different iterations. They came out with a version that was very 2D, very flat. They came out with that after their 3D logo. They still use the 3D logo, but the 2D logo speaks to a different audience based on brand strategy and research. So their 2D logo still pretty much the same. It just looks a little bit different to an appeal to a different audience. That's brand strategy right there. They're using those insights to see, we want our logo to be the same, and it's very different, and no other logos look the same, but a different iteration for a different audience. When we create visuals for our clients, and especially when we're talking about logos, we're trying to do something completely different. So if a real estate agent came to us and said, we want you to build a house for us, we're going to tell them we're probably not your agency. We could take their money and just do it, but that's not one of our brand values. Our brand values are, we want to be different. So when somebody comes to a logo, we start way uncomfortable. We create something that just doesn't make sense, but we're being very experimental. And then we bring the client in, they tell us what they like and they don't like, and we start to scale it back to get somewhere to where they're happy with it, we're happy with it, and we think it's completely different than anybody in the marketplace. Still needs to make sense. But we also want to create a logo that will stand the test of time, like BMW, like Mercedes. It's all the same, just little different iterations. If you go get a logo on Fiverr or from somebody that maybe charges $200 for a logo, you're going to get something that probably looks like everybody else, or there's no real thought behind it about how do we want it to speak to our audience. It just looks pretty. There's a difference between a logo and a functional logo. And this functional logo is influenced heavily by the brand strategy. That's why this is so powerful. When we create a logo for a client, we're taking all of this information that we went through with you to create something that does not look like anybody else, but that actually speaks to the audience that you're looking to speak to. So we try to be original. And we've said no to projects because we didn't think that it was going to fit within our brand values. Maybe sometimes it's to our detriment, but that's okay because we want to live by our brand values. What is your brand essence? Your brand essence is knowing how to express who you are as an organization. This refers to your brand positioning, your customer personas, your business personality, the tone and voice of your organization, your customer avatars, who your customers actually are, and again, your brand positioning. Your customer persona, who are you trying to reach? Give them a name, age, gender, job description. Where do they spend their time? What are their pain points? And how do you actually solve those pain points for them? You can see how powerful that in and of itself is. When you know, I want to put this message in front of people who are 25 to 35 years old. They have this specific pain point. This is how we solve it. You already have it defined in here. This is like your marketing Bible for the next 7 to 10 years. It's so powerful. Your competitors, who are your local, regional, and aspirational competitors. I want to compete with Ogilvy, who is considered one of the most famous and powerful ad agencies in the world. They're my aspirational competitor. So I watch what they do. I see how they're much better than we are. Of course, they've been around for 50, 60, 70 years, right? But I'm going to look at that. But I want to name the company. I want to figure out how are we stronger than our local and maybe even some of our regional competition? Are we even stronger in an area than the major agencies? How are they stronger than you? How are they better? If you know that they're better in a specific area, well, you're probably not going to address that in your marketing. You're only going to keep on what you're strong in. And then what do you need to do to be better? If you know that this local or this regional agency does this better, your question is, do we want to compete with that? If you do, go after it. If not, all good, okay? Your personality, your brand's humanistic characteristics and attributes. Is the person standing next to me who is your brand, are they energetic and enthusiastic? Are they blunt and to the point? Maybe you want to be fancy and sophisticated if you have a higher end or luxury type of product. Or if you're somebody that's all over the place and want to go out and have fun, are they wild and crazy? And your brand voice, how your brand sounds and speaks. Do you have, or how do your potential customers want to be spoken to? What adjectives explain your brand? And what do other companies sound like? Look at your competition. We found a major gap for our home inspection company because we saw the way that their competitors talked and the words that they use and the not very good grammar. And we made sure that our client was going to be somebody who was not going to be that. And then the tone of your voice. Are you witty? Do you want to speak with compassion? Is your organizational authoritative in a respectful manner? Like one of the witty things is one of the things that we identified ourselves with. That's why if you notice, all the little exclamation points and question marks and everything are blue. If you actually look at our logo, it says red letter and then has a blue period at the end. We put that there because we seem really bold and serious about what we do. When you look at our logo, everything's red, called red letter. But then we have that little dot, which adds a little mysteriousness, a little wittiness. And you'll see as we develop our brands, we're going to have a little cartoon character based around that. And he's going to start showing up in areas. That was all found out through the brand strategy. So now we're executing. And your brand messaging. Your brand messaging is how you talk about who you are. These are the words and phrases you use to tell people about your organization. What is your value proposition? Your value proposition explains the functional benefits and the emotional benefits that your business will bring to the market. And there's all kinds of psychology around that as well. You can do the research. It's amazing. In other words, why should somebody choose you over your competition? Functional benefits are the functional pain points that your product resolves. Does it simplify life? Does it help them save money? Does it give them some type of sensory appeal like taste, sound, or smell? Emotional benefits are how it makes people feel after they partake. Does it help them feel more in control? Does it make them more comfortable? Does it make them get noticed? Does it make them happy, excited? You have to define that. And then your tagline, a phrase that sums up who you are as an organization. Now, elements of a strong tagline. There are so many taglines I've heard that don't actually make sense. So I want you to think about it. Likability matters, but inject emotion and imagery. Back in the day, there was a soap company called Calgon. Were you around for Calgon?
I knew the tagline.
Right.
Yeah.
A lot of people do because it stood the test of time. Calgon, take me away. Take me away from all of my problems. That's pretty powerful. Renewal Massage and Wellness, who is local here. Anybody knows Connie? She gives great massages too. She always says, where we leave you feeling relaxed, refreshed, and renewed. Man, what kind of imagery is that? My shoulders just went down as I said that. But that is a great tagline because it shows people how they're going to feel after they partake. And then the messaging pillars. These are the key stories, phrases, and messages that you want to speak about in the marketplace. What are those stories? What are supporting topics for those stories? What makes you unique and different? Again, your brand positioning is going to be part of your messaging. What has been the impact you've seen on your customer who have used your product or service? And then what's the origin story of your organization as a whole? Because people want to see behind the scenes and know you as a human being. So the messaging pillars are the filter through which every idea you have goes through. From front to back. Does it match up with our brand heart? How is the words and the graphics and everything shaped through the brand essence? And is it part of our messaging pillars? So I know that was a ton of information. I hope everybody's still awake and functioning. You know, one of the guys at one of my networking groups used to tell, he said, speaking to Nick is like trying to drink from a fire hose. Because I throw a lot of information out there. So if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. Okay, just going to let me know what they are. Since you're in person, do you have any questions? And it could be about anything. It could be my sports career. It could be mental performance, which you don't need because you're in psychology and you know more than I do. Or any of this are marketing executions. It's okay if you don't.
I have a sort of question.
Okay.
So
Who is it that's in? Oh, your question?
me
Okay.
personally, while we're waiting for these questions, unless you have one. If you were walking into an organization that has been around a long time, which I know you consult to, so you've probably done that before, or as a new marketing person, how what do you, like, what would be your first step? Because they already have a mission, they already have a vision, they already have those values and things laid out.
Mhm.
But if you're looking at that organization and you're not seeing those things reflected in
Yep.
how the organization operates,
Yep.
how would you address that?
You just addressed it for me. Because what we do is we'll go and we'll look, okay, where are you currently at? If you have a brand strategy, send us the information so that we can read it, but we're gonna audit first. We're gonna look at the colors on your website, the shapes, the stories. If you have a funnel, if you have a customer journey, maybe even go into your organization, or if you have a store, let's say, and listen to people. We need to figure out what kind of the personality and what's currently being executed, and if it actually matches up with the brand strategy. If somebody already has a brand strategy, we'll do internal audits too, where we'll talk to the employees in the business and ask them key questions to find out if they actually know what the brand strategy is or what the purpose, mission, values are. We'll ask about some of the internal problems within the organization. Could be management, could be product or service, it could be technology. So we really go in and ask the deep questions first to see if what is currently being executed matches up with what you want your company to be. But then we'll also sit with internal stakeholders too, look at that brand strategy and say, okay, is this still even current? Or has your company, and it's okay if they do this, because in my opinion, you have to go through your brand strategy every 7 to 10 years, because you want to make sure you're still matching up with it. You may have eliminated one area in your business and now have 4 other ones, and now your brand strategy no longer, it was basically based here and it doesn't match up over here. Well, and then we need to go through your brand strategy and have sessions and do a brand new one from scratch. So it really is based on a lot of interviews, data and research, and also audits from us to figure out if it's all cohesive.
If you walked into an organization like that, I'm guessing the answer is it depends, but maybe you'll have something more to say.
That's a question for a lot of marketing. It
Yeah.
depends. Yeah.
It depends. If you find that the customer perception is not matching up with
Yep.
the brand strategy, that like Walmart, like, right, if you walked into Walmart and had to solve that problem, would you have them embrace the customer perception? Or,
Depends,
I knew you were gonna say that.
because it has to, if there's negative sentiment towards a company. You ever notice when, Chipotle, for instance, right? They were going downhill for a while. And some of the questions were, like internal, how managers are working and how managers are treating employees. Some of it had to do with food waste. Some of it, they were finding that maybe the way they cooked and prepared vegetables, or they weren't getting it from organic sources, even though Chipotle says we're all about the farms. When that scandal hit, within about 3 to 6 months, you started seeing commercials come out that talk about the organicness, that, maybe about the new processes they used internally to make sure that the food's fresh. I think they got rid of the forks and knives that they were using and used a more compostable version of plastic. So all that being said, you have to look at what it is. If it's negative or there's a perception opposite of what you have, then yeah, you have to shape that messaging. You have to choose which one you want to tackle, or maybe it's an overall organizational thing. But you definitely need to put a plan in place and decide, do we change it or go with it? If it's negative, of course, we're going to try to change it. Yeah. Have you come up with any questions yet?
Yeah,
Okay.
so like with my own, like kind of where I'm at is
Yep.
like, starting out, it's literally me versus the world.
Yep.
And in my mind, trying to separate like myself
Yep.
from my brand, like my story, my mission, my origin story for me is the same thing as whatever my brand is. And so it's kind of like, do I need to focus on separating myself from my brand initially? Or is that like you're saying, well, maybe 5 years, once it's grown into something bigger, then you look at re-strategizing?
Right. So
Or
your
what
question is,
language would I use?
right. So I think what your question boils down to, and I don't know if everybody can hear his question or not. The question is personal brand versus a company brand, essentially.
Yeah.
Because he wants to start his own thing from scratch, right? Initially, because you're not hiring employees right off the bat, you can still build both. But you're right, people need to know, like, and trust you first before they'll even think about partaking in your company. So maybe this is where you're shaping and creating everything and telling your story, giving applicable advice that you can, like, hey, do you deal with anxiety? Here are 3 things you can do right in the moment to deal with anxiety. Starting to get that and getting people to know you, and you're starting to give them value. They can work in tandem between a personal and a company brand. I know for a long time, personal brand is still like the thing. The problem is so many people are starting personal brands, but they're not following through with their promises, or they're giving false information. You know this coming from the psychology world. There are a lot of business people, let's say like Gary Vaynerchuk or like Grant Cardone, who are giving you messaging that is actually completely against what science tells us you should be doing, right? So you being that person, it's going to be harder to break through because there's so much other messaging out there that contradicts what you may be saying. But at the same time, it can give you clout because you actually have the degree, you have the science that backs it up, and the data that backs it up. So it's like any business. It's going to start out just you until you've grown to where people trust you. So to me, it's going to kind of be the same in the beginning. And then once you get into the broader idea of where you're going, like a brand strategy will still help you know it nonetheless. But once you get to that point where you're starting to become bigger, you have to decide what you want to do with your personal brand. If you want to go either a different direction, or maybe you're pioneering and doing innovation, or if your company is going to be without you anymore as the face. You have so many different directions you could go. In the beginning, you're just going to test it out, really, and see which one gains more. And then you'll have a lot of data by that 5th year, 7th year, where you can decide which direction to go. Did I answer your question? Awesome. Do we have any questions online?
We do not.
Okay. I guess that's it then.
Do you want to share do you have a slide with your,
I do.
there we go. I was like, I thought people online might want to see that.
Pretty much anywhere you want to go, you look for a red letter creative. This is the actual, it's probably harder to see obviously on here. There are other red letter creatives, but you just search Springfield, Missouri, you'll see us there. Redlettercreative.co is our website. But like I said, go to any socials, look out Red Letter Creative, find that logo, and that's us.
Thank you, Nick.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. Hey, listen, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to send me an email there. I'm on that email all the time, as you can imagine. So I love talking marketing and creative. And I mean, honestly, if anybody wants to have a free 30-minute consultation, I'm not going to try to sell you. People who know me know it's pure value. I'll answer any question you got. So go ahead and send me an email. We can set up a free 30-minute consult. We can talk further.
All right. Thank
Awesome.
you.
Thank you guys.